on everyone, and welcome to another video sharing my experiences from my previous 10 years in retail with the three major businesses I've been with. I've already done Lidl. Today's video is going to be about Marks and Spencer's, and the next video will be about Co-op. This video will follow exactly the same structure as Lidl's video did. We will look at the 5 categories that people tend to search before joining any type of business and undergoing a career move. And these will be culture, management, pay and benefits, progression and development, and of course, work-life balance. So let's get right into it. So the Marks and Spencer's I've worked for is what you call a Simply Food Marks and Spencer's. It's not the actual major building that you usually see in the UK, where you have food hall inside together with clothes, usually a cafe and restaurants, and then household stuff and so on and so forth. The one I worked for is what you call Marks and Spencer's franchise, which was owned and ran by Moto Hospitality. Moto Hospitality is a franchised business which focus in areas in service stations. So if you've ever been in a service station in the UK, you know that the whole building has a whole bunch of different brands, usually has something like Costa's, McDonald's, Burger King's and Starbucks, all this sort of thing. And in some of them, and in most of them these days, you also will have something like a WH Smith's and Marks and Spencer's. That whole place is basically, there is some cases where there is 2 businesses running that, but in my case, Moto Hospitality runs around 74 service stations within the UK, and they run the whole thing. The way it works, I'm not entirely sure. It's Moto Hospitality gets the most of that profit, and then Marks and Spencer's basically is buying the rights or selling the rights for them to represent their brand, sell their products, and in return, obviously, Moto provides staff, provides operations, logistics, and all that sort of thing. A very, very brief summary, and they will usually go in formats like this. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but Moto is service station based only. You will find Marks and Spencer Simply Food run by companies like SSP, travel agents, whatever they call it. You'll find these more on places like airports, train stations, and so on and so forth. And then you have one of the most common ones in the UK as well, which is British Petrol, which is BP. They will also have an M&S Simply Food with them. So the SSB, BP, and Moto Hospitality would be the 3 major brands or companies that will run Marks and Spencer Simply Food for Marks and Spencer's. And nowadays, thankfully for M&S, they started now opening M&S Simply Food as a food hall, as separate from the whole stores, which is something that they should have done a long time ago, in my opinion. But moving on, very quick summary of how it is to work for Marks and Spencer Simply Food, run by a different business. There is one very negative thing, which is exactly that. You have 2 businesses that you need to look after. So I've joined as a department manager, therefore my job is to run the whole place as Marks and Spencer's, and then be a duty for other brands, but we're talking about Marks and Spencer's only. As a manager, the most negative thing that I would have to say about it is that you have to please 2 sides. You have to please Marks and Spencer's, and then you have to please your own company, which is Moto Hospitality in this case. In Marks and Spencer's, you will have an area manager, a regional manager for franchise brands, and then you'll probably have a director of franchise, blah, blah, blah. So you have to please all 3 of them, and it is not unusual for all 3 of them to literally come into the store and do an audit or see what's happening, look at the figures, look at the loss, look at P&Ls, all that sort of thing. And then you have the other side, which is your own company, which is Moto. They have exactly the same. Within Moto, you would have a general manager for the site, for the service station, who would be running that. In some cases, you would have a site support, which is basically an assistant general manager. And then you have, again, the same sort of structure. You have the area manager for service stations, you have the area director, and then you have directors of other sorts. So you basically have 6 people that you have to please. And the worst part about that, and the way I say that this is negative, is they will not agree on everything all the time, because Marks and Spencer's is a high quality brand, a high-end brand. They are looking for quality, they're looking for quality service, the first impressions, the M&S look. If you are from the UK, you will understand what I'm talking about. Moto is worried about making money. So the more money we make in store, the more Moto capitalizes on selling or buying Marks and Spencer's rights, I guess you could say. So this is a negative. The positive is you have 6 people to complain to. So let's say that one day you need something escalated as quickly as possible. The first person you would go to would be your general manager. If your general manager obviously might not know as much as M&S as you do, the first person you would call is the M&S area manager. You escalate that to him. If he doesn't solve it as quickly as you wanted to, you go to Moto and ask them, can you escalate this? And then he will find a way to escalate it to M&S, and then it's kind of rolls around, but it solves itself quite quicker. So there's a positive and negative of having 6 different bosses, I guess you could say. In terms of positive experience, for me, working in Marks and Spencer Simply Food, I work in the busiest one of all 74, which is in the M25. If you are from the UK, you will understand what I'm talking about. Was busy constantly. But in my personal opinion, it was the most relaxed 1.5 years that I've ever had in my life. Yes, sometimes it was hard work. Yes, sometimes it was a bit bored and blah blah blah. But for me, it was the most stress-free environment that I've ever been in. You are dealing with customers, but you have a very different kind of customer base, because the people you would get as a customer from an M&S service station, Simply Food, is you would either get truck drivers who are stopping by literally. You get people on the way to work, stopping by for coffee, sandwiches and stuff for their lunch later. You get people that are on holidays and happy. You get people that are literally just stopping by because, or you have people who wanted to use the service station toilets or whatever, and then decided to buy something to eat. What all these people have in common is that they are not really based and local. So they are always either in a hurry, they are happy because they're on holidays, or they're literally just stopping by, so they don't really care. They grab their stuff and move on. So it's a very different experience from Lidl, for example, or Co-op, which are obviously locally based supermarkets, and you get regulars all the time, and you get other people all the time. Moving on to the 5 categories that we usually talk about. So we will start with the big one, which is work-life balance. One thing that's been a huge thing after 2020 and after the COVID world finished, people started to embrace life a lot more, and they started to put a lot less time into work, because life is short. Why would you waste it all at work? That's bottom line. Work-life balance in this place was outstanding. I'll be completely honest. It was very rare the time where I had to stay later a few hours, and the only time that I would have to stay late is when we have inventories or stock takes. But when I mean late, I mean 1 hour, maybe 2 hours if it didn't go as well as we hoped to. So in terms of work-life balance, it was perfect. I didn't get bothered when I was at home. I didn't get messaged when I was at home. When I was there, I had all the resources I needed to leave or to start on time and leave on time. Granted, the team that we had in that place was pretty spot on. It was good. The attendance was nearly 100%. We had no sickness calls, no whatsoever. Obviously, 2020 was different, but I started in 2017, finished in 2018, so prior to COVID. Even with 2 people, you can run that place easily, because delivery schedules are really spot on. You get 1 delivery a day, which is like 4:30 a.m., and that is that for the whole day. And then you get the next day. On Mondays, on Sundays, sometimes they wouldn't have deliveries. It depends on the schedule. And the trading hours, my particular store was running from 7 a.m. till 11 to 10 p.m. They now change it, as I am aware, to a 24-hour service. But this doesn't really change your schedule very much. In terms of shifts and schedules, if you are starting early, a lot of the time you would start at 7 and finish at 3. You would then start at 2 and finish at 10 if you're on late shift. If you're on a night shift, you get from 10 till 6, and then 4:30 a.m. till 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. If you are doing a delivery shift. So you have deliveries, earlys, lates, and nights. If you are 24/7, but they don't have that all the time. So work-life balance is pretty good. There is not really a con in this category for Marks and Simply Food. And I can honestly say that BP, I worked there part-time for about 3-4 months, and it was exactly the same scenario. Work-life balance was spectacular, no really big issues of attendance, and because the environment is so chilled and relaxed, your fluctuation numbers in terms of people going and coming in and coming and going, it's quite high. So you don't have brand new people starting all the time. You have experience inside. They can easily run the store without someone if someone would call in sick. So I don't really have a con for M&S Simply Food when it comes to this Moto Hospitality franchise. So let's move on to the next category. Culture. In terms of culture, I think Moto is quite good as well. In terms of pros and cons, there is not really a con in here. You do have long service people who tend to know that they are stuck in their ways, and they kind of don't do the job the way you want them to do it, which is basically the way the company wants you to do it. But if you are able to get through to these individuals, you will do just fine. I had that situation in my previous work, and it does take a while, as a manager to evolve these people into what the business wants them to do, and in fairness for your store to do well, that's what you want to do. But in terms of culture, is pretty good. You have the M&S side, Marks and Spencer's is all for their people and their customers. You have Moto, and Moto is very money-making kind of company, but they provide you with the labor, they provide you with the productivity. The store that I was working is relatively small in comparison to others, one of the others 74 that they have, but we made the most in the whole country. But we had the people. It wasn't unusual for us to have 5-6 people on shift at all times, starting at 7, then have someone in the middle, and then having someone start on late. We'd have quite a lot of people in there. Against Lidl, which sometimes you'd have 3 people doing the whole thing, deliveries, tills, and so on and so forth. So in terms of culture, they provide a lot of support for you if you wanted to go into a different site to learn something different, go into a different brand to learn that brand's roles and so on. If you wanted to go into management, they provide a lot of that support, and the culture is pretty, and the culture is a lot of our people make our business, which is quite good. The only problem I have with Moto in terms of this part is that they are quite traditional. So you will have a lot of paperwork to fill in. According to franchise M&S rules, you have to keep paperwork for 6 years. So you literally have a room in your warehouse full of boxes like this big, full of paperwork from all the way back to 2016 and stuff like that. So it's not an unusual thing. They are quite traditional, they're quite paperwork based, but I am still in touch with quite a few colleagues from there, and they do tell me that they've introduced a lot of digital and technology based work environment, I guess you could say, to the business, which is outstanding. I think it's a really good thing. People do love M&S in the UK. It's quite expensive. It's probably the most expensive supermarket in the UK, to be completely honest, but they make quite a lot. And people love them, and it's one of those things. I've seen a guy, for example, with an M&S tattoo. They say that Marks and Spencer is not just a supermarket; it's a way of life in here. I never understood that concept, so don't really ask me that question because I don't know. But that is, that culture then, that sort of movement, and transforms into the culture that they provide to people. People actually love working for them, and I didn't really hear much complaining when it comes to the M&S side, and neither did I with Moto. So it's in terms of culture is quite good. Not really much of a con in here. It's just that traditional side that needs to change a little bit, but they have done that, so it looks pretty good. So let's move on to the next. Let's talk about development and progression now. Development progression is pretty good. There is one con, there is a lot more pros, but we'll start with the con. The con is because their retention levels is quite high, people tend to stay. So the opportunity for you to move on to the next position, it's quite low, because let's say you got hired as an assistant manager. If I would be the department manager, I wouldn't be leaving for a really, really long time. What had happens is that you as an assistant manager, you want to move on, you want to move forward, and what happens is you then tend to start looking somewhere else because you don't have the opportunity to progress. Because why would a person leave if they are loving their job and if the culture is that good and the working time is fine, payment is fine? Why would they leave? In terms of that, the opportunity is quite lacking. The good thing about that is because and this is quite a funny thing to do, 2020 has actually made Moto poorer but richer in terms of opportunities. So they have a huge plan of opening enormous amounts of service stations throughout the UK. If you are willing to relocate to one of these, then the opportunity is there. If not, it might be a bit more difficult for you to get that progression that you wanted. In terms of pros, development-wise, there is plenty of opportunity. They literally pay for courses. They don't go as far as degrees, as far as I'm aware, but they will pay for courses and 2-year diplomas and stuff like that. Like before I left, I was actually enrolled into a level 3 business management course, which would have taken me 2 years to finish. And they get a lot of other courses out there. It can be anything in human resources. I don't know about technology. I didn't see any of those. They get a lot of business management courses. They will pay for that as long as obviously there is, I think, a time period that you need to stay with the business to get that money back in a way. So in terms of development, and my general manager was quite good at showing me and giving me the ropes as well. He basically taught me and trained me for his entire role of operations so that the whole place can run without him being there, which was really good. So basically we had 2 general managers but we were paying only 1 basically. But that gave me that experience, it gave me that knowledge that a general manager would have, which I believe is really, really good. So yeah, in terms of development, it's really good. Progression, there might be a lacking of opportunity. That was the main reason I left. I got offered a store manager role, which was a lot higher. It was slightly bit better paid with the co-op, and I decided to take it. It ended up being a mistake, as you will find out on the next video. But if I was looking for work-life balance only with a decent salary, I would have stayed with Marks and Spencer's. I would have never left for sure. Another thing that happened to me is I had to relocate, so obviously I couldn't, there was no service stations that I could move into that were close by, so I had to leave, and I got offered the job with a co-op, and that's why I moved on. So that's development and progression. Hopefully that was clear, and let's move on to the next one, which is management. So in terms of management, I think we talked about this a little bit, which is I had 6 people that I had to please, plus my general manager. The good thing about it is that your main boss, which is general manager, usually, and the one I had, would take all the hits for you and then delegate what needed to be changed for you if it would be something extreme. Of course, if it's M&S based stuff, then you would have to solve it yourself because you are the department head of that department. So you'd have to solve those problems. But the good thing is that he would always be there every time there was a visit, an audit, an inventory, anything like that that could influence his site's performance. He would always be there. So in terms of support, development, training, even just praising, usually as a department head, as a store manager or something like that, you won't get the praise because you are the one giving the praise or doing the praising. He was quite good at praising numbers, and I was still performing quite well for the whole time that I was there. I had an amazing team by all means, and he would always say every month he would look at numbers and inventory, stock loss, turnover and stuff like that. Of course, he would give feedback on what we could change and what we could do better, but I also agreed with that, so there was not much of an argument. We had a really good relationship. I'm not in contact with him anymore, but his life is pretty busy. My life became pretty busy as well. In terms of Marks and Spencer's managers, they do provide a lot of support. Anything that you don't know, you would just send them a text or an email in this case, and they would reply literally within a few minutes. If not, you can just ring them if it's something urgent. But for the most part, you would have been given a training for a really, really long time. I think it's 8 weeks they provide the training, and they send you 2 weeks to a different site with a different team so that you can learn what they're doing. They pay for the whole thing. They pay for gas, they pay for accommodation for the 2 weeks, and they pay for any expenses that you may have in there. Obviously, not fully. They don't pay for the full stay in terms of food, but they do provide, I think, a 60% discount on anything that you buy within their business. So that's really good, and I always had support. I felt supported, so it's really good. The only downfall of all this is that you may have store managers that are quite old school. They don't really rely on technology as much as they should, and you have to almost push this through, which is not really your job to do, to be honest. If you are applying for an assistant manager role or general or store manager role, sometimes you have that. I didn't have that problem, so I can't really say that, but I've heard certain stories about general managers who are not really technology based, and they end up delegating their actual job duties to a department manager, and then the department manager gets obviously overloaded. But that doesn't happen too often. Didn't happen to me. It's just a slight concern that if you are thinking about that. But in terms of future for the business, obviously people are always traveling back and forwards. They love the services in here. They love BPs and stuff like that. Not really sure why, but I really, really enjoy the environment. I didn't know I would like something like that as much, but I really enjoy the environment. The looking for people just rushing to work and traveling and looking at the sunshine, happy, eating and all that. For some reason that made me feel really good. I don't know why. But yeah, in terms of management, that is that. Now to pay and benefits. In terms of pay, there is a quite variety. Unfortunately, the business doesn't actually have this unified pay that usually other businesses would have. There is a very good reason for that though. You would not compare a service station in an M25 like mine was to a service station all the way up north in Scotland, in the middle of nowhere, where people would stop by from time to time, but not as much in the M25. So you wouldn't pay the same to this person that you're paying to that. So that's not unified. I don't see that as a con, I see that as a pro, because let's face it, your job would be a lot easier if you are in Scotland than you are in working in the M25. But regardless, the pay is still quite good. It goes anywhere from £9, which is basically a minimum salary, I understand that. But then obviously, like we talked about, you get a lot of work-life balance, you get a lot of availability requests that you can ask. Holidays are pretty much guaranteed, obviously. Christmas and stuff like that might be a bit more difficult, but it's all up to your managers and your management to sort of deal with. But it goes anywhere from £9 to all the way to 11. In the particular one that I was working in, they are now on 9.75, which is way above average, and supervisors are on 10.45, if I'm not mistaken. They might be on more now. I'm not too sure about that, but it's more than 10.45 for sure. And obviously then if you are working night shift, you get the £1 plus as night shift premium. So let's say you're a supervisor on the night time, 10.45, you get earning 11.45. If you're a customer assistant, earning a team member, earning £9, you earn 10, and that's how it works. If you are working in M&S BP Cord, within Moto, you do get almost £11 if you are a team member, just because obviously you have to deal with fuel deliveries and stuff like that. But it's nothing to know about. You don't literally, all you would do is block off the lane that's being refilled or something like that, and that is it. And then the driver will do all the rest. In terms of more managerial positions of the supervisor, we talked about the one I work in is 10.45, but it can go anywhere from 10.25 all the way to 11 again. So supervisor wise, that's it. In terms of assistant managers, the one I was in is currently on 23, 24. I'm 23, 24, yes, which is not really too bad for the assistant manager role in terms of, because the actual M&S, if you go into the actual Marks and Spencer's business, an assistant manager earns something like 21k or something like that, which is really low. So 23 is not too bad. The busiest one earns 25, but again, it's busier. The lowest one, I think it does earn 21, but in all fairness, you're not as busy and you won't be as tired, so you can actually enjoy life a little. In terms of the department manager, the salary was really good. It was £32,000 for the one that I was working in, which is really, really good. Considering the work that you have to do, and you would have an assistant manager plus a general manager if you needed any help. So it was really good. I think the pay and benefits are pretty good. In terms of benefits, you do have a bonus scheme. Obviously 2020 was forfeited because half of their service stations were closed because people couldn't actually, go in and buy stuff. Plus, most of us weren't working, therefore, why would you need a service station for? But like I said, you got a bonus annual scheme. You get almost a 60% discount in all the brands that are inside the service station. I swear to God, I gained like 5 kilos the whole year that I was working there because they had Burger King right there, and I got 25% discount on that. So yeah, coffee was for free. You can literally go to Costa, grab yourself a cappuccino that would usually cost £3. Ends up costing nothing. So a lot of coffee I had in that year as well. And then you get other progression opportunities, obviously 2 different brands. You get the experience to work with multiple departments. You get a multi-site experience as well. And then you got other obviously schemes, like you get gym discounts here and there. You get like discounts in other stores. You get vouchers here and there, and so on and so forth. So that is pay and benefits. In my opinion, that is a pretty good package. Do keep in mind that it depends on how busy the service station is. The pay and benefits obviously goes a little bit lower, but so does the busyness levels, and so on. And that's pretty much it, guys. So that is the M&S Simply Food franchise for Moto hospitality in service stations. I realized I didn't really provide much negative feedback in this. And to be completely honest, there is not much of that negative feedback to do. It was a really, really good year and a half that I had in there. If I would have gotten a more progression opportunity, I would have still been there. But I wanted something quick. At the time, I needed money. I had debts that I needed to pay, so I didn't even think twice. But it's really good. It was a really good experience. Really, really good management. You do get that you have 6 people to please, but to be completely honest, that's not the worst thing in the world. You get a lot worse elsewhere. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any more questions for me in terms of this experience, by all means, do drop me a comment, drop me a like if you like the video. If not, just drop me whatever. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I will literally be posting the co-op video just now as well. I have the footage, I just need to put it together. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you stay safe, and send me a PM if you have any questions. Cheers. Bye.